The Slavs, too, have a strange conviction. At their feasts and carousels, they pass about a libation bowl over which they utter words. I should not say of consecration, but of execration, in the name of the gods, of the good one as well as of the bad one. They profess that all propitious fortune is arranged by the good god and all adverse by the bad god. Hence, also in their language, they call the bad god Diabolos or Chernobog, that is, the black god. Helmand of Bassau, Chronica Slavorum. It's time to talk about a mysterious Slavic deity that is relatively unknown for many, yet you will hear the title that is known about it next. Chernobog is a god from the Slavic mythology whose name means black god, and from which there is little reference. Among the few sources is a Christian chronicle from the 12th century and an Icelandic legend from the 10th century, which describes it as a dark and wretched deity. Many primitive practices of the polytheist religion from Eastern Europe were based on the principle that the natural world was inhabited and ruled by spirits of good and evil. These mysterious forces adopted anthropomorphic traits and would turn into deities with special powers and roles. As in many other European mythologies, the Slavic believed in two holy beings that took control of their lives. And the belief in this god was particularly strong in places like Russia, Czechoslovakia, Yugoslavia, and the ancient Transylvania. The post-Christian remnants of the original Slavic myths about the creation of the world indicate the presence of a divine dualism responsible of creating it, which is traced to the god brothers Belobog and Chernobog, who would be part of the cosmogonic myth taking the earth from the bottom of the original sea, and would represent the original antithesis of light-darkness and good-evil. However, it's been proposed that this notable duality would be an influence on Christianism, which would afterwards turn Chernobog in an image of the devil. Among the first sources that mention him is Chronica Slavorum, written by Helmand of Bassau between 1168 and 1169, from which the small quote you read at the beginning of this video was taken. In it, Chernobog is described after talking about a Slavic religious ritual where people would toast for the good god, whose name isn't mentioned, and the evil one, who is identified as the devil, and they called Chernobog. He is the deity of evil and pure darkness, known as Chernobog, Chernabog, Chronobog, or Xenobog. It can be written and pronounced in different forms depending on the Slavic tribe or town where he was mentioned, but his meaning, symbolism, and prerogatives were the same, which means they were definitely referring to the same deity, the black god of evil, darkness, and disgrace. Some centuries after Chronica, Albert Krantz, in his historic Vandalia sive Historia de Vandalorum Gec origin etc. from 1519, coincides with Helmand at pointing out Chernobog as the evil black god of the Slavic, along with a good god whose name, once again, isn't mentioned. The name of the good god who opposed and complimented Chernobog is later established by Mauro Oblini in his work Il Regno degli Slavi from the late 16th century, who called him Belbog or Bailabog, possibly taken from Sebastian Munster's Cosmographia from 1554, therefore establishing the Belbog-Chernobog duality. These two gods represented opposite strengths as part of the cosmos' dual nature. When Christianity arrived, the big Slavic deities disappeared as such, and only some traditions were kept in society as part of approved ceremonies. Another tradition that involves Chernobog is that of the two-headed god, since in some places, idols that represent this god as bicephalous have been discovered. That is, perhaps because many people considered Chernobog and Bylabog as the same being. In some places in Eastern Europe, it is said that during spring and summer, this being was Bylabog, the white god, a benevolent character dressed in a white coat and carrying a staff. When autumn arrived, Bylabog dressed in black and turned in the evil Chernobog. Ironically, this deity became more popular in the West thanks to Disney, who showed him for the first and last time in a portion of the 1940 film Fantasia called Night on the Bald Mountain. In this movie, which in this portion of it could have been quite scary for children back then, Chernobog is an enormous, terrifying demon of unknown origin who controls a legion of minor demons who serve them, and all of this was shown in a children's film. This dark being is the main antagonist of the story, and despite only appearing in one scene, he proved to be a very powerful demon. Clearly, Disney based on the Slavic descriptions of the god of darkness to create this character. While its time on screen was extremely short compared to the other great Disney villains, Chernobog has been catalogued by Maine as one of the most insidious and frightening, if not the most, among all Disney villains, given that the concept behind it encompasses a very dark symbology. It is worth noting that this god is still venerated in some way, and worshipping this deity is still part of the folklore from many Slavic regions. Even though the time of Chernobog's covens is past its zenith, this god linked to darkness and evil is still feared and even summoned in dark ceremonies performed by some cults from Eastern Europe. In some Southern Slavic vernacular languages, there is a phrase that goes "do Boga," which means "to the evil god," which may be used to express something that is excessively negative, and with reason, for Chernobog, just like Satan, has been and still is, for those who believe in his existence, responsible for all the tragedies and the source of all the evil and darkness in our world.